Hello there. um, I have been really stressed lately, per usual, and just debating whether or not I even want to like just keep making these videos. I kind of feel like it's pointless. I'm not getting any views. I mean, I expected that. I kind of did just jump back into making videos after years. Um, so yeah, but I remember when I first started doing videos a long time ago, when I was just a little teenager in the South, I more so really made my videos for myself. Um, I really liked the idea that, people were watching them and commenting, but it was something I kind of just did for me. So I'm really, really trying hard to get back to that space, and it's really hard. So, this video is really going to just kind of talk about a little bit of where um, I want to start off with where things kind of left off, and I want to put on this little beat. So everything kind of left off with my last video, not like the ones I've been making, the past couple of weeks, but the one when I was in college, and it's kind of hard to talk about. I got to college and I fell in love with this guy who was not my type, who I thought wasn't my type. We were going, I remember that year getting to college. We met the summer. This summer we were going into college, and I just was not feeling him. I was not feeling him at all. But he was persistent. He was super duper persistent. And to be honest, he really just grew on me. Yeah, I mean, I'm being completely transparent. We started college that summer in August, and we kind of just hit it off. Those were the good times. I was so excited, to start like my new life as a college student away from home by myself. It was a lot. It was an adjustment. My parents were going through a divorce at the time, which was tough, for me. And his parents had split, I think, that summer, a couple months before, too. So that is something that we had in common, of just kind of just feeling like, things were topsy turvy at home. And I feel like he was the one person that kind of understood everything that I was going through. It took quite some time for me to get to a point where I wanted to be in a relationship, because I was nervous about whether or not we were compatible, and we kind of really weren't. But he slowly became a support system for me, somebody that I could lean on, confide in. And he kind of just had this thing where I just always felt like I was going to be okay when he was around. I can say that it's like the one thing that I miss the most. But it was hard because he wasn't out yet. And I was. And I didn't want to pressure him into coming out and, doing the whole big shebang and everything. But I had a friend, who was telling me, like, you seem to really be falling for him, and he's kind of pushing for you guys to be together. And if he really, cares about you, that's a step that he should be willing to take. And I was like, yeah, I get it, because in high school I had did a bunch of, the DL dating and the sneaking around and stuff. And I was getting to a point where I felt like, okay, if I'm going to be with somebody, I know what I bring to the table, and I know, how I love. So it wasn't that I kind of forced him into it. I just kind of told him like, hey, like if you're not ready, for that, then I think that we should just slow things down and be friends. And I don't really think he liked the idea of that. So one day we took a picture together and he posted it on his page and it said, what did it say? If you let me, here's what I'll do. I'll take care of you. I don't know if you guys know what song that's from. And yeah, that shook things up. It was like, whoa, his family wasn't, like the most accepting at the time. And that was something that I wasn't really sure. I'm not gonna say I wasn't, it hadn't even really occurred to me like the kind of support, someone would need really going through that. Because I came out at such a young age, at the age of 11. And my family has always been very accepting. So it was definitely a learning experience and a humbling experience, really being able to be someone's support system and see things from a different perspective of someone who comes from that, traditional Southern life, traditional, upbringing, thinking, mentality and stuff. But I hung in there with them. And I did it because I was in love with him. I felt like that was going to be my future husband. Like I just knew it. And things were good for a minute. I would say so because while we were happy, I feel like while we were happy together, and really going through our honeymoon phase, I never really stopped to consider like what it was like for him at home. Like he would talk to me about it, but I really just don't think that I was mature enough at the time to really, really be able to understand. Like I was supportive and I was there, but it wasn't until later on that it really hit me like, oh wow, like that was a lot for him, So, but eventually I do remember, his parents being more like supportive and stuff. Leading up into our sophomore year, things kind of got tricky with, our relationship being public and us being one of the only, one of the very few open LGBT couples on campus, and that's a lot, being at an HBCU. So, and then even just social wise, because all the gays was on him, like all the gays were like on him. Everybody already knew I was out, but it's like when we were together and people saw, he came out, it was like they was flocking on him, in his DMs, on Kick, on Instagram, all of that, So that was an adjustment for me because I became really, really insecure. I didn't know how to deal with, my partner getting so much attention. And I mean, partly I do think that I do have to give myself a little bit of grace because it wasn't like I just was insecure for no reason. I saw how the attention made him feel and how he reacted. And that's what kind of like made me not feel safe. It made me feel like I wasn't enough. Like just at any moment, somebody who looked better than me or was more popular than me, or just, whatever, could just come along and that would just be it. And he would, do his best to reassure me, but in his actions, a lot of times, I really just wasn't convinced. And eventually that's kind of, I think, what led to us growing apart. It's been so long ago that happened, but I've been carrying around this burden and this hurt with me for years, because we would go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and getting back together, breaking up, getting back, breaking together, whatever. That finally somebody, well, eventually somebody came along and he fell for them. And that was, kind of tough for me, because by that time we were halfway, a little bit more than halfway through college, and it just like crushed my entire vision for just everything that I had planned. And listening to myself say that, it's like, wow, you sound kind of narcissistic, because it's not people's responsibility to fit into your plan and your vision and what you want. But to my defense, I thought it was kind of our plan. I thought, So yeah, a new guy came along. This really, really, really attractive freshman boy, instantly popular on campus, fly, could dress, attractive, all of that. And I just didn't know how to take it. It just crushed my world. There had been other guys in between, who had came through here and there, but nobody really that like stuck the way this guy did. And I did kind of know from the beginning, like when that happened, that like we were kind of over. And it hurt. It hurt to know that I had put my all into something and supported somebody when they were at their lowest. Put my needs and my wants aside to just give them the love and care and support that they needed, and they could just kind of up and leave me for what I believe. I mean, I'll never know their relationship, and I know it's not my responsibility. I mean, I know it's not my place to dissect things and analyze things, but I do anyway, because that's my personality. I just kind of felt like I kind of got pushed aside for superficial purposes. But over the years, I've come to the realization that people want what they want. And sometimes people can just have a connection that is just strong. And yeah, it may be looks, it may be popularity, it may be, whatever. But if that's what they want, that's what they want. And you have to accept that. And it took me a really, really, really long time to get to that place. So I would say I spent a lot of my junior year, kind of begging and pleading and really just seeing how I could get him back, because I just couldn't fathom the idea. It was so hard to digest. We still did a little back and forth while he was kind of entertaining that guy. And then by, I would say, the end of junior year, senior year is when it kind of really hit me like, yeah, this chapter is kind of closed. But by that time, I was at a loss, because I had spent so much of my college experience focused on us and we, that I felt like I had lost myself. And I felt like so many people were ahead of me when it came to self-growth, because while people were out exploring themselves and exploring their environments and etc., I was stuck on this guy and basing everything that I did and all of my plans around him. So by the time I graduated, I was just at a loss for what to do, where to go. I don't really come from the most privileged background. So even though I was on scholarship, during my time at university, when I graduated, it was pretty much like back to the hood we go. Um, and I had lost everything. I had no money. I had to have like a major surgery that year that just kind of kept me from really being able to focus on work. Um, I just feel like I had lost everything. And I would still lurk on his page and check up and, see how he was doing. And I remember being so proud of just how he was growing and accomplishing so much. But it just had hurt me that I couldn't be there to experience that with him, and to know that when I was at my lowest, when I couldn't depend on my immediate family, that the relationship was so damaged and so tarnished that I couldn't pick up the phone and have him be some kind of support system. And that made me resentful for quite some time. So I was home for about a year until I just made the decision to one day pack up my Honda and everything that I owned after I had already downsized, and just go out into the world and just see what I could make pop, because there was just no opportunity for me at home. And I did that, and things were rolling, for a couple of months. And then I found myself really, really down and out. Like, partially like out on the street, in my car, no place to go. Staying in the motel for a couple of days. That wasn't working. So I went to go live in a shelter. That was kind of like really my only option at the time. And that's one of the roughest things I've ever had to do. And coincidentally, we were both in the same region. He was about maybe like 45 minutes away from me. I think he worked in the city, or would come to the city to hang out. He kind of stayed on the outskirts. And we kind of got back in contact with each other through social media. But it was so hard for me to tell him about what I was going through, because that had never really been the dynamic of our relationship. I had kind of always been, the one who puts on the face, the one who's fine, the one who's okay. So allowing myself to be vulnerable and really transparent and tell him about, just where life had kind of took me and where I was in that moment, I just couldn't bring myself to do. And it was also too because I felt like he didn't care. He was kind of, the way the conversations would go, it seemed like he was just kind of focused on meeting up and hanging out and parties and this and that. Whereas like, meanwhile, I'm hungry. I don't even really have a clean place to lay my head, to shower. I'm surrounded by so much dysfunction and negativity living in this shelter. And it was just hard. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of been on me, on my shoulders for the past 5 years now. And it's crazy how so many years have passed. And there are times when I think that I'm over it. There are times when I feel like I've dealt with those feelings, or I know how to manage them in a functional way. But when it comes to really moving on to someone else and trusting and loving, I feel so stuck. Because the one person that I loved, I just really feel like abandoned me. And some people have said, well, you never said anything. Closed mouths don't get fed. So I do think about that as well. But just from the times when I have reached out and just tried to have that conversation or tried to just start it, there's always something there that just tells me like, he don't care. It's old. Get over it. It doesn't matter. So yeah, that's what I've been carrying on my back for these past couple of years. It's a lot. I guess I was just kind of hoping that something would happen that would make me feel like it wasn't all in vain. And that even though we can't be in a relationship because, we're not compatible and the past happened and that's just not where things should go, that somewhere along the way I would still feel like if it really, really came down to it, I would have a friend. And I don't really feel that way. And I've just been trying to cope with that and accept that and really deal with adulthood. And one of the part of things of being adulthood, of going into adulthood, is accepting that no matter what, I made the decisions that I made. And nobody is responsible for my actions but me. And I can't be dependent on anyone. I can't expect anyone to come through. I can't expect anyone to save me, And that's been a real hard pill to swallow. It's a lesson that I'm learning slowly. But there are just times when life is going hard, like it's been here in New Orleans, where it would just be nice to kind of like have that. And as happy as I am for his success, and the person that I kind of see that he's become, sometimes I just can't help but feel like I would just be a better person and better off just with everything if I had just woke up earlier and focused on myself like everyone told me, my family, my friends, everybody. And it hurts to know that I'm at a place in my mid to late 20s now where shit has hit me. I don't have all the answers like I used to. And I went through a lot of trauma and a lot of hurt when I was homeless. And I saw a lot. It still kind of haunts me to this day. And it just hurts to know that the one person that was close by, that was there, I couldn't call and say, hey, I'm hungry, or I don't have anywhere to wash my clothes, or it makes me feel like, well, what is the purpose of putting myself out there again? What is the purpose of being optimistic about love and stuff if you can really have these feelings, experience that, and give your all for somebody, and to feel like you don't know what it's like for that to ever be in return. And it is a saying that, goes, love is never boastful, it's never unkind, it's never selfish. But I think everybody wants to know what it's like to feel like you have someone to catch you if you ever fall. And I can say that when it comes to love and relationships, and I've just never really had that. So it makes me wonder, like, do I even really know what love is? Was any of it real? What was the purpose of going through this? When I was in therapy while I was homeless, my therapist told me, well, that might have been a part of your journey and your path to be that blessing for somebody else, so he could go and be that blessing for somebody. And I thought about that and I was like, wow, because from what I did know, his new guy went through some stuff coming out, and because he was 2 years younger than us when all of this was going on. We were in school, and it was nice to know that, okay, because I was able to be there for him, he could be there for somebody and be that same support. And I guess that's what it's all about. I guess that's the positive. But sometimes I just feel like, fuck, what about me? I know it's kind of selfish, but that's just the way I feel sometimes.
Welcome aboard the Disney Bundle, your last blockbuster hits